Alright, hello everyone, and welcome to Tufts Overwatch as we head out onto our first map of Oasis.
So we're starting here. We have Aboo taking with the first fight.
Oh, but immediately goes down actually. The Malga just gets burnt straight through, healing not quite enough to keep them alive. And now Tufts is forced to retreat. Going to be picking off the supports on the backline as well. And that's just going to be the flip of the first point.
You run into so many issues on this map with the narrow corridors. It's easy to get trapped if you're not careful. You have to make sure you plan your attack carefully and make sure it's with the entire team.
Yeah, really big purpose to get fixed there. Managed to get away with the big four. Aboo going right back in, pressuring that back line, but not quite able to find anything just yet. Eva dropping low.
We see now that they're all trying to take their positions, just making sure, giving up a little, making sure that they can build time, but also build their meters and make sure that they're in position for when everyone has responded.
Yeah, and actually on the backside of that fight, we did see Burkhouse take out the Mei, which is going to be pretty big because that's going to be a long stagger before he's able to rejoin this fight. As Tufts is already managed to come back up in percentage as they go in right back again.
So it's interesting to see. So in talking with some of the players before, there was a discussion of what is currently in the meta. So to my understanding, that Genji wasn't planned for this. So it's interesting to see Genji here today.
Yeah, it does seem to be something of a comfort pick, but not quite working out as Tufts does end up losing the fight. They do manage to get up towards 50% up rough roundabouts on the point, so they're in a relatively comfortable position still.
And with this, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It's important to remember there's still a lot to be played in this one game.
Yeah. We do see ultimates getting built up from both sides. UNC slightly ahead, managing to grab headline of those right there as they manage to pick up the first pick. So ultimate buttons pressed from the side of Tufts, but not quite able to get anything out of them, and it's actually a ultimate trade in favor of UNC, but Tufts ends up losing the fight.
And even more so, UNC now has 4 out of their 5 ults, so it's important to be careful when planning their next attack.
Yeah, I think we're really going to be looking at Gage fight. Oh, a bit of a counter synergy with the Mei wall, but gets dropped down in time. Managed to pick off 2 of the backliners from Tufts. Has a very comfortable hold. This should be final fight territory. An excellent Mei wall. Tries to block off the Reaper, but he does manage to escape.
And so now we just have to see what is Tufts planning in this endgame here. What are they going to try to do with their last attack? And we see that they've now contested. We'll see how this goes as we go into overtime.
Yep. Cage fight used. Not quite able to find anything, and it is Tufts DPS that ends up going down. Traded back. So far it's looking pretty good for Tufts actually. Managed to find.
Yeah, as we see now, all 5 or almost all 5 down at the time. As we see the team kill come out. So we see Tufts finally winning the fight, regaining control, and so now it's just defense. And how long they can keep it will be the question that we're all asking.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was actually a really critical fight for Tufts as well, because they're going to get their ultimates back up first, because we did see the Reaper and Brigitte ultimates used early. So they're actually going to be able to, well, as I say that.
As you say that.
Rally popped, putting a little bit of that defensive pressure back on, but the Genji also goes down from the boosters. That's 2 members of Tufts down. Juno trying to rejoin the fight, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough, and that might just be the first point going over. Death Blossom gets a beating for the most part, so
But Tufts is holding on in here. They're reaching. They've got to 99. They just have to either get a team kill and eliminate everyone out, or it goes over. So it's neck and neck here.
Yeah,
But as
it does help that he only just now gets the flip, but as Tufts members go down, this should just be the first point going over to UNC.
So it'll be interesting to see how Tufts adapts here. We saw that it was pretty back and forth. So the question is, will they try mostly the same strategy, or are they going to try to make a few adjustments? And I'm wondering what that will be.
Absolutely. We are actually going to see the UNC swamp onto the Echo. Definitely a lot better on this second, more open point. Allows you to get a lot more, have a lot more space to move around with in the air.
And we see Jim also swap to Symmetra, I believe.
No, I think it is just for the.
Oh no, it just switched back. As I say.
So, going to be the same run back from Tufts.
Yeah,
Ooh,
and we see
working out already.
Right out of the gate swinging with.
Ooh, a really nice
2. And so we see here that it almost seems like a more aggressive approach right off the bat, especially from Ozzy, which we just saw.
Yeah, I was the charge from the high ground, wrapping around was really nice. Doesn't end up picking up any kills off of the back of it, but
it's all about positioning.
Yeah, absolutely. As we say that, the Echo does manage to get some good positioning, flanking the backline of Tufts, as both supports now down for the side of Tufts, and UNC should be able to clean up this fight relatively straightforwardly.
Relatively straightforwardly, but we still see Tufts is still in control of that center point, so even as this fight goes, we see the number increasing.
Yeah, absolutely. The longer they can stall this out, the better it'll be for them, as they reach crest 40% already, so looking good.
And now with the Echo now returning, we'll have this sort of high ground that the Echo can now take in order to combat Tufts. But we'll have to see how Tufts adapts to this.
Absolutely. And once again, it's the Juno that ends up going down first. The cage fight does come out really good into the Echo, but Duplicate is used just to get a little bit of extra survivability.
And we see Tufts even still, as they've drawn out their timing, they're now up 3/4 of the way there. They've used their time effectively at 80% now, and so they've done a really good job of making sure that the momentum, even if the fights have been pretty even, that they've controlled the center the entire time.
Absolutely. I mean, it's really well done, and UNC used 3 ultis for that fight, so it's going to be 3 ultis to 2 once the Juno and Brig ultis come out for each team respectively. So they actually do have a really good shot of just taking this point if they manage to win the next fight.
And we see there the charge by Azu. We'll have to see what comes of it. Doesn't seem much, but there's still...
It looks like it was just to get out of the Mei ulti, which was popped. Genji does go down once again.
And the Mei wall being very effective in just stopping Azu in his tracks.
Yeah, Azu slamming his head into a wall there. Definitely
that cannot be comfortable, just slamming your head into an ice wall.
Does not look it.
And so we see here that Tufts regrouping, they're taking their time to get back in order to take this team fight, which hopefully will allow them to regain the center.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think eyes are going to kind of be on this Genji. So far not having the most impact, but with this Dragon Blade, maybe able to pull out some crazy outplay. We'll have to see what ends up coming of it.
And it's really interesting seeing UNC take full advantage of this high ground. They're using the fight to the advantage by using all these different ledges to hang out on. And we see... Oh, Yeah, as I say, Jim's still alive.
Just barely. Does manage to scrape it out. Ulti's popped, but so far, no deaths. Jymthegreat trying to deflect the laser, not going too well.
Let's see, the Reaper ult from Aviary.
Yeah, just used to clear the, just a solo ult to the backline, and it seems to have worked. And that's just going to be the point, I believe. Unless UNC can manage some kind of heroic touch, this may just be the second point and bringing us to a map 3.
And so we're going to see essentially UNC try to rush the center in order to get a touch, where Tufts is going to play almost pure defense, and it seems like it's working out very well.
Yeah, really, really well read from Aviary to just snipe that, catch the echo on the attempted flank. So that's going to be map 2 over to Tufts.
And so it was a great adaptation to see, well, both teams adapted great to the second map with almost these different heights that they all had to deal with. But it's interesting just seeing how each team adapts, where Tufts was playing a little bit faster, maybe trying to take a little bit more control, versus UNC, which is almost lost at some points due to the Tufts fast-paced offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do see some adaptations coming out from UNC. Looked like it was going to be a Ramatra for a moment, but no, it's actually going to be the Aviary. And in addition, Sub also swapped off onto that Cassidy.
We see Tufts almost, I think they've had the same comp this entire time.
Yeah.
Not changing, so they feel pretty confident in their strategy. They feel like the heroes that they've picked are doing well, they feel like they know what they're doing, and they're just sticking with it.
Absolutely. I mean, so far it's looking pretty good for them. If they had enough to this third point.
And so here we see Azu still taking that very offensive line, taking the team fight directly to them, and so is the Reaper. And the Reaper is still alive, is still trying to push into that line.
But, I mean, the Mauga gets dropped low from the side of UNC, and that should just be the fight over to Tufts. Desperately trying to get one back, but it's not going to happen with a double kill coming out from Corona.
Once again, now trying to play defense. It's just this game of moving back and forth, and that is a dead.
Yeah, that's definitely not where you want to be if you're UNC's Cassidy. Back to the spawn room, looks like, as Tufts start taking a pretty comfortable lead in this third and final map.
And see the Reaper ult come out. It will hit one.
Yeah, you can definitely see it having a lot more impact without that Diva to eat the ulti, but a really nice cage fight plus Blizzard combo means that UNC is able to clean it up despite the decent ultis coming out from Tufts.
And so now we have Tufts with a 54% lead, or 54 and declining lead, and we'll have to see how they adapt and how they want to, as it seems like they're separate at the moment, that they're not all in one team fight, so we'll have to see how this works out for them.
Yeah, but I mean, they do have 4 ultis to just the one of UNC as they pop the satellite vector. Going straight for it, and it seems to be working out. That's just going to be the fight as Break jumps off the map.
And as Tufts reclaims it, we now see this shift back to defense as Jim using that Dragon Blade very effectively to push off the map.
Yeah, absolutely. Tufts in a pretty commanding position right now. 77%. Cage fight now used as well. If they can get a pick here, it's going to look really good.
And the ult used doesn't get anyone.
And a pick is exactly what they're going to find. And that's just going to be the first point, headed over to Tufts, going up 1-0 in series.
And that will be it. So 1-0 for the first round, or 2-1 for the first round as Tufts takes the first match. And what do you think about how Tufts played in that first match?
Yeah, I mean, I think you could really definitely see them warming up a little bit. We saw both the Reaper and the Genji, to be honest, being a little quiet in that first map. But by the third map, they were just making plays, and it was really working out for them. And I think we could see their confidence showing, never swapping on picks, whereas I think UNC was a bit more uncertain with it.
No, I very much agree. They almost needed that warm-up game just to get everyone, especially their DPS, going. And definitely once it felt like they got in line and then their DPS started being able to find the kills, making sure that they got the full elimination, that they were fully able to take control of the center and ultimately win the match.
Exactly. We'll have to see. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say we'll have to see what UNC pulls out for Game 2, if they have any kind of adaptations. But so far, Tufts looking very good.
Very good. And as we see them picking the next map, I understand, as somebody who does not play competitive Overwatch, it's interesting to see and talk to them because they practice on all these different maps, and then it's like, oh, which one do we know that our opponents, like, they've played UNC now. They played them once during the regular season, and then I played, I believe, one scrimmage against them, if not two. So this isn't their first time that these two teams have been playing, so it's really interesting to see map choice and how that's going to affect where they're going next.
Absolutely. And we are going to be headed on towards Numbani, and which is definitely a different which definitely normally sees different comps than we do see on Oasis. So we'll see what ends up being the go-to for these teams. But I do remember seeing Jymthegreat's Genji popping off on this map before, so we'll see if that's what ends up happening.
And this map is also much more open. You don't have those extremely narrow corridors as you saw in the previous map, so it'll be interesting to see how both teams adapt to a more open style. Maybe it will mean that they're aiming for more long-range attacks. Maybe that means that they're going to try doing a little bit more sneaking around the map to try to get an advantage. And it will all depend on the heroes that are picked and whether we see Tufts or UNC making that change.
Absolutely. I do remember, I believe we have seen the elusive Burp House Widowmaker on this map before. So.
Yes, I'd say that's going to be something to watch.
Absolutely.
As we wait, as the teams are both preparing, probably just making sure that their game plans are set and ready to go for the second match.
Just looking at the now, it does seem like we are getting pretty different comps this time around. But as Tufts loads out for a more dive heavy comp that we've seen on Oasis with the Winston and the Ana, as well as you mentioned, a bit more long range threat with the Ashe as well.
And then we see on UNC side, we see the Tracer coming out, so almost a little bit different. Maybe they're thinking about close range, getting in close and making sure that they can get these team kills. But we'll have to see as the match starts.
Absolutely.
And we see immediately Azu trying to take the full range of the electric bursts and seeing how much damage he can deal from his corner.
And
he does not get
it really aggressively. Gets dropped down very low, but doesn't end up falling down.
And we see here Tufts has taken a very defensive position, much to the point that they need to defend. but you can see even more so that they're using the wide range. We talked about how taking across this map in this wide open space, they're fully taking advantage of it, shooting from around corners and from cover.
Yeah, absolutely. Although we did see in the small room, Jymthegreat does end up going down, but so far Tufts holding up pretty well in this 4v5. Takes out the Diva mech and the DPS of UNC as well.
And now we see 4 out of the 5 of UNC down, so how will they adapt to the Tufts defense? Are they going to... It doesn't seem like they're going to change, but let's see how their strategy changes.
Yeah, definitely looking good for them so far. Looking good for Tufts. Normally the first points on a lot of these maps can be very, very quick to flip, but the time bank draining down relatively fast now.
And we still see Winston just still there, still just doing as much damage as he can and getting out.
Yeah, absolutely. Jumping forward, applying this pressure on this back line. I mean, just zoning them back. Both healers from the side of UNC not able to participate in this fight because of the impact of this Winston. Popping the primal now as well.
And that was a great hit by Let's see.
Yeah, absolutely. Without a lot of their members, yeah, the duplicate just gets dropped out straight away. I mean, not what you want to see from the Echo ultimate. And
no, not at all. And with a minute 20 left on the clock, we have to wonder what. There has to be a big push soon.
Absolutely, and the pulse bomb doesn't quite land, but the bob is enough. Going back and forth, Diva goes down, and it looks like Tufts is in a very commanding position. Juno also going down, but the UNC members are going to be back faster than the Tufts ones, and with the rally popped, this might actually be Tufts losing control of this first point as UNC starts to take up that capture percentage.
And Tufts is almost they're not exactly attacking. They know that it's not worth the fight, so they're taking time to defend themselves. They're making sure that they're ready for the payload. With now, as the timer resets to 2 minutes 50, they have to be ready for an onslaught.
Yeah, absolutely. But honestly, I think Tufts is happy with that hold, right? I mean, they drain out almost all of the time bank, and so UNC is going to be pretty pressed for time. When it comes to pushing this payload, it's a long distance to push, for sure.
And in addition, the more people on the cart means less people that can attack, so they have to find the balance between pushing the cart and making sure that Tufts isn't able to defend too hard. So it'll be it's a very delicate balance, and I'm looking forward to see how UNC takes it.
Yeah, absolutely.
As the Genji shift occurs.
Yeah. It's one Dragon Blade. We'll see if the duplicate manages to get a second Genji out on the field, but kind of just a trade of backliners as Tufts dives onto UNC's while UNC dives onto Tufts's, and it's a pretty even trade so far. But Jymthegreat, under a lot of pressure, forces out the recall on 15 HP, just barely managing to survive, desperately waiting for this health factor respawn. Doesn't quite get it, but is able to survive.
Now back up to health. He's back in the fight with now full health.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is probably only 1 or 2 more fights before UNC is out of time, but they are starting to close in on this point. Rally popped, but UNC just backs off, forces out the cooldown, and they're not going to be able to do too much with that, I think.
No, and Tufts is playing very much around. They know how much there's 2 ults available, and they're very close to a third. So Tufts knows that what they have to do in order to make sure that they don't get past the first checkpoint. Yeah,
Winston jumping right in, nano boosted up, but there's no one to hit. UNC just runs away. Definitely not the most impactful nano boost, but it's still draining time away from the time bank.
And even more so, it's almost scaring UNC. Even if you don't hit anyone with the Nano Boost, a Winston with Nano Boost is still one of the scariest things you can see, especially for a backline.
Yeah, absolutely, and I mean, UNC pushing forward, all 5 members of Tufts still alive as Azu finally goes down, and this might actually be a capture of this second point. I don't think Tufts can contest it. Yep, it does.
There it is. It's now the...
I think it was just a bit unfortunate in terms of ultimate usage towards the end there, with both the Nano Boost and the Rally not getting too much value. Starting to build up... Sorry.
No, I cut you off, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they're starting to build up towards these ultis once again, as we also see the Cassidy swap, and we'll have to see if that's enough for them to stop the full push.
It's important to see that UNC is working. They're in very close proximity to each other. They're covering almost every angle that Tufts can come at them with. And at this late in the push, Tufts need to find that one angle that they're not protecting and use that angle.
Yeah, and so far they just haven't been able to find it. UNC looking really, really good on this first... After getting past that first point, they've been looking really good on this payload portion of the map. And this should just be a full push with 40 seconds left on the time bank.
As long as we're contested, there's 35 seconds now. It's not a lot of time, especially for a huge team fight.
It definitely isn't, and that Dragon Blade is getting a lot of value. Also ends up canceling the rally, so... as Azu comes back out on the Doomfist, if they're able to touch, it's going to be pretty big, but just half a meter left.
Azu has to stay on this payload at this.
Yeah, but it's not enough, it looks like, and it is going to be the full push with 8.8 seconds left. We'll have to see if Tufts can match that, and bring us to a second round.
Of course, and so one of the big things here is that they were able to finish, but they finished with barely any time left. So Tufts' entire goal at this point is make it to the end with more than 9 seconds.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that's definitely very doable for them.
And it will all depend on how well UNC is able to defend this first point. We saw Tufts, who was able to whittle down the timer very much before they were able to capture. So we have to see if UNC can do the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first point is going to be pretty indicative of how the rest of the map is going to go. It doesn't look like anyone's going to be swapping the comps for the swap up sides. We do see a Torbjorn. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't know if that's staying. I don't think the Jim Torbjorn is here.
I do believe we may just be getting trolled a little bit.
Yeah,
like that's going to happen.
And am I seeing the
past Bastion?
Yeah, I was about to say Bastion could be interesting, but I don't know how feasible this is.
Just messing with the casters a bit. It looks like it is going to be the same comp running back.
Which is good. They've demonstrated that they're all very proficient in these characters. So they're showing that they have confidence in their comp. And the question is, how well are they going to be able to push both the offensive line and the card itself?
Yeah, exactly.
And so we hear first with Azu taking this team fight, having a very similar game plan to the game one, where he's still hugging that corner, trying to make sure he's from a protected spot as D.Va comes flying out of that corner into Tufts area.
Yeah, takes out Jymthegreat right away. Once again, not what you want from your Genji, and we'll have to see if that's going to be a difference maker, but so far, UNC kind of ahead. And especially in terms of that ult charge, and does manage to grab Azu as well, so it is looking like this first point is going to be pretty difficult for Tufts to capture so far.
And we're going to have to see whether it's a repeat of the first one, because remember, UNC also had many issues getting that first point. And we'll have to see whether Tufts is able to unite and get back in the zone, and much of that will have to deal with getting through the front line and dealing with that back line, who's doing so much damage and healing their front line. As we see D.Va flying at flying at Tufts at top speed.
Yeah, they did end up removing the combo between the Juno and the D.Va, but it's still definitely very good, as the nanoed Winston jumps into the backline and grabs the Juno. Also ends up popping the D.Va mech, who should get finished off shortly. Yep, does end up going down, and that should just be Tufts managing to pick up the first point, especially with Birdhouse nailing those shots.
Even more so, Winston, Azu still just pushing back. Both the front line, I think, was there, just making sure that they're able to secure this front point and then have extra time. You see, 4 minutes 30. That's a lot more. I think that's a minute 20 more.
Minutes more, yeah.
Yeah. Than UNC had, as I try to do mental math at this time.
Because I believe UNC ended up with just 2 minutes 40 on the time bank for this push, and so far, Tufts is in a commanding position.
And we see they're trying to deal with Azu, who's just hanging out around the corner. They can't seem to get him through the wall, but we see D.Va now flying through. We see this offensive D.Va that's done very well. It's gotten Jim now twice, and we'll see what it can do now.
And it is going to be Birdhouse that ends up falling. Azu dropping very low as well, does end up going down. And it's 2 ultimates used for a fight loss, really. So, definitely not what Tufts wants.
Well, they got 1 usage of the other, but now UNC has 3 ults to Tufts 2.
Yeah, I mean, Tufts can definitely afford to take some of these more disadvantaged fights as Birdhouse wins the Ashe 1v1 because they're so healthy in terms of time bank, as they already start to approach this final golden box capture point for the second checkpoint.
And it's interesting, we see UNC, they're not trying to contest yet. They're staying behind, they're waiting for everyone. They want to make sure that this is a full team fight before they get the checkpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's... I mean, I think even if UNC wins this fight, it's pretty good for Tufts, because they're just so far ahead in terms of time bank, right? Birdhouse actually grabbing 3.
And that's Jim also using his ult to perfection there, getting getting the white.
Yeah, my bad. Yes, Jymthegreat's Genji, not Birdhouse's.
But we'll have to see now. Tufts with almost 4 minutes on the timer as they round this final corner. It's 1 to 2 team fights left, and the question is, will UNC be able to defend?
Yeah, it's not looking good for UNC, honestly, because 4 minutes is a ton of time. Does end up swapping onto Orisa, but it's not enough so far. Health bar is dropping low, so does Azu's. Azu does end up going down, stopped by the spear spin. But
we see Tufts being able to have a commanding corner as they take. Oh no! Sorry, I thought this was Tufts' point of view for a second. My bad.
No, I mean, Tufts getting pushed back for now, but they're building up towards those ultimates, and I mean, I think they're fine with losing 1 or 2 fights because they've still got 3 minutes left on the time bank.
Of course, and then we see here. Yeah, they're getting close to all these ults. It's almost like they're willing to run down the time. We saw how much that UNC was able to do with so little time, and so I think Tufts sees it and like, well, we can stall for a little bit, get our ults, and get ready for a team fight. As we see now, they have. As Azu gets the Juno. Wait,
Not quite able to get the Juno. The Brig doing a lot of work here in protecting their fellow support. No deaths going over so far. Azu just pushing them backwards, but does have the Primal Rage now.
which he pops immediately.
But the Terror Surge also gets 2. So the Nano Primal is primal as well now. Jumping forward, gets 2 of their own.
Gets a 3rd.
Yeah.
As he, really as he waits for the May and Ice.
But it is going to be Tufts picking up the fight win. A really good primal from Azu. He manages to get the...
Yeah, as they try, they're almost 5 meters away with a minute 45, and so the question is they have to essentially win 1 more fight. That's it. That's what stands between them and a 1-1 and a 2-0.
Absolutely, and I mean, all eyes are on Jymthegreat now with that Dragon Blade once again. We saw the kind of impact that they can have on it earlier, and we'll have to see if they can do the same thing now.
As he takes
so
one.
far, looking at no.
He got one.
Yeah, trades 1 for 1, but not what you want to see out of an ultimate. Ooh, the Brig kind of stuck in a corner almost, getting pressured out.
We
But
see Orisa on very low health. We'll have to see as
with the
healed back.
it gets healed right back up to full, and I mean, a much better defense from UNC than we have seen from Tufts on their defense. But once again, Tufts came into this point with such a good time bank that even if they win the fight now, they're still probably going to be ever so slightly in the lead.
And with 30 seconds, remember they have to beat 8:08 or 8.8 seconds. So they had to win this fight quickly and they have to win it now but they have the ults. They have 2 ults, which they're gonna have to pop now.
Yeah, I mean, and they're coming on to 4, so yep, 4 now. So I think if everyone presses Q, it's going to look pretty good for them, and it does look like that's what's gonna happen.
And I think that may be it.
It is looking like it, but they're not going to have as much time in the time bank as UNC ended up actually having. It is actually going to be an overtime capture. So when it comes to this 3rd round, they're going to have less time than UNC in order to take the point. But we've seen them here before, and we've seen them win those.
Of course. And so the big question, as they take it, round 2 is complete. Both teams making it all the way to making it to 71-76 meters. And so the question you have here, you have 8 extra seconds, which is both a lot of time and very little extra time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, from what we've seen out of these teams in round 1, I wouldn't be surprised if this map ends up going towards a draw, with neither team able to capture the point in 1 minute.
And so you're gonna how does draws work in playoffs even for Playfly? You know how that works?
No, I actually couldn't tell you what the official ruling is, but we will have to see what ends up happening.
The ruling for what?
For draws.
Oh, I mean, you just go to another map.
But then that would make an even number of maps, right?
You just keep going until somebody reaches 3.
I see.
There's an order of the game mode that you play, and then at some point, once you covered every game mode, you just reset. But it'll be until somebody reaches 3.
Well, we'll have to see. Tufts here on the attack, so they have to set the precedent for it, and they come swinging out the gates. Azu comes flying out with Winston.
Yeah, this is actually a very different comp. I expected this to be more baiting of the casters, but no. It's going to be Kiri, Lucio, Sombra, actually.
Yeah, I didn't even notice. I was like, well, they're just going to switch back in a second. It'll be fine. But no, they're all very different, and they seem like they just want to get us. It's a very fast comp. You have Lucio trying to support speed. You have Genji, who is trying to get behind enemy lines. You have Winston just flying around the map at this point, just a flying ape.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're winning. It's working out so far. Like, UNC not able to stop the onslaught as Tufts just flies in. And that's going to be the full cap. Definitely far faster than anything we saw from them in round 1.
And so now they have... And as time, they get... Oh wait, yeah, they keep it going. I was like, oh, and then it goes. But no, it keeps going until overtime ends. And so the question is how much of a lead? And so we saw it took about 50 seconds for Tufts to gain the push. So the question is, can UNC repeat that on their own push?
Yeah, I mean, Tufts is going to be able to push this a decent distance too. So when it comes to time for UNC's attack, they're going to have a lot of work to do.
Yeah, we'll have to ask them after why the change here. It seems like it works very well. but it's an interesting thing that I haven't seen most of these players play before.
Yeah, absolutely. Jymthegreat getting pressured down. But we even see a Kitsune rush managing to go out. Grabs one, grabs the tank. That's the most important member, and Tufts can just keep pushing now. All of their ultimates starting to come up. Sombra does end up going down, but they can just keep pushing.
Amazing, and that's the checkpoint. So they're just going to keep going until they can. It's an amazing push from Tufts, and we'll have to see how far they can take this.
Yeah, very, very impressive attack. I almost wonder why they didn't do this for the first round. It's looking so good for them right now.
And that's caster bait. They wanted to make it look good.
Yeah, 2 ultis coming out. Diva's out of mech. Should end up going down soon as well. Brigitte drop low, does end up going down as well. Tufts just really dominating here.
This is very different than we saw from that previous round.
Yeah, 2 members of Tufts do end up going down. Not quite able to make it as clean of a fight. And UNC is starting to have some of their own ultis, but Tufts has the Primal Rage still, and they're almost getting towards a full hold in the bonus round, which is very impressive.
But we see the ult from Cassidy, will that hit? And that doesn't hit anyone.
Yeah, it's nothing. Diva ulti goes out, Aboo ends up dying.
Finally goes down.
And that's going to be
51. That's an amazing push.
An incredible push, yeah. And very impressive, honestly. I'm a bit of a loss for words here. UNC has a hell of a fight ahead of them if they want to match that push.
So there's a few things UNC now has to do. The first thing that they do is win the first fight in order to get the cart. And we saw Tufts, that took the majority of that time, of that 1 minute that Tufts had. It took a good, decent chunk of that. And so we'll have to see with 8 extra seconds, is that going to be easier, and how much can they do?
Yeah, and we actually are going to see a bit of a stay. Birdhouse staying on the Sombra. The backline is going to swap back to the Ana Brig, but definitely a bit of a swap, and it looks like UNC is going to swap a little bit of their own with the Reaper now coming out.
And they didn't have a Winston before, right?
Oh, they didn't. You're completely right. No more Diva for I Love Fortnite.
Yeah, we're playing Overwatch here. Wrong game. But we'll have to see. Maybe they saw Tufts' very offensive strategy. They're like, all right, we can do that now.
And we actually are going to see an Ana as well, which I think is really interesting, because the Brig just provides so much peel for the other support that the Ana just doesn't really have. And we'll have to see if that makes a difference when Tufts ends up jumping onto their backline.
So a minute, 52 seconds on the clock. This fight is essential. If Tufts is able to win this, they have full control of how much time is left. If not, it all depends on how much they're able to get. We saw Tufts with an unprecedented 51 meters on overtime.
Absolutely, and I mean, if Tufts manages to win one fight, that's just game. That's the second map, and Reaper goes down off the bat. So, definitely not looking good for them so far. Traded out for the Brig.
And Tufts playing amazing defense here. Looking towards, we see, and I Love Fortnite taking the kill there. We'll have to see how much time with 9 seconds left.
Yeah, Tufts is missing quite a few members though. It doesn't look like they're going to be able to contest this point. But, I mean, it's overtime now. Even if Tufts loses this point, they're in a good spot to just win one fight and then keep going. Winston jumping in.
Deciding that it's worth the contest. Trying to get the Reaper there. He does.
Ends up getting them. And I mean, Tufts has all their members now, and UNC doesn't.
That's a primal rate.
Yeah, Winston jumping back into contest. But so far, Tufts is in the driver's seat, really. Aboo pops their own primal. Now, I mean, if they can just bat the Winston off the point, it looks like that's what's going to happen. And there's nothing that UNC can do.
And so that's 2-0. Moving into the final map. Tufts with a dominant tiebreaker, as we see the play of the game going to Jim with what I'm going to assume the... No, this is not the overtime clip that I thought it was going to be.
No, it's the 3-person Dragon Blade kill, I think, yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice. And I mean, we have seen Tufts Overwatch pull out quite a few 3 Overwatches in their time, so we'll see if today ends up being one of those days as well.
And we see in the chat, I guess, thank you, production, thank you, Cheeto, for saying, so I guess, so Servasa hasn't been, so as I mentioned earlier, this is the 3rd time, so once in scrims and once in an actual match that UNC and Tufts have played. And so it's interesting seeing the map choice. And as we go back here, as we go to a bathroom moment from UNC, taking a minute to recompose themselves, that was a very close game, and so we're gonna have to see if Servasa is the map of choice or whether that's a placeholder, and how both teams adapt to this final Flashpoint game.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Flashpoint is because these maps are so short, because these points are so short and cap so quickly, it's very easy for one team to just get 1 or 2 fights, and that's just the point. So I think here is probably as good a place as any if UNC wants to make their comeback. But they do have a hell of a fight ahead of them.
And I wonder if we'll see the very dominant offensive moment that we saw with the tiebreaker, because we saw Tufts being able to, with these flashpoints, we want to make sure that we have our offense in line. And so I wonder if Tufts is going to have a similar comp to that tiebreaker for the push, or whether they're going to try to mix it up, maybe have a little bit more offense and defense balance.
Yeah, absolutely. So far, it kind of has been looking pretty good for whichever team is going on the attack. So we'll have to see if Tufts ends up making any of those kinds of adaptations as well.
Very nice. And so it seems like we have some time. So to the people watching in stream, thank you for watching. We very much appreciate you guys coming out to the semifinal game. If you are not following, please do follow. We are at, John, do you know the number off the top of your head? I do not.
699 actually. No, 701 now actually. We're at 700. We've officially surpassed 700. That's incredible. Yeah. Oh my god.
So yeah, so we are, so for the people so thank you for, I guess, 700, as it's amazing to see our stream grow and being able to put out these playoff games and any games during the season.
Absolutely.
I'm currently talking to Shamrock, by the way, on the side. And they're talking about how that push was absolutely insanity. Absolutely insanity.
Can we bring people in?
No, not right now because
no. Just you? No.
I'm just like DM. And they're like Lamau for the Lucio Sombra play that they were doing.
So John, what did you think of that?
I was completely bamboozled when I initially saw it, but at the same time, I think the original my opinion is that the original goal with that Sombra Lucio was to take immediate space on main point, because they thought that as long as they got some percentage marked down on that initial checkpoint, they could try holding UNC as long as possible when they had to defend them. So by taking advantage of that, by just grabbing some percentage, they were not only able to get control of that checkpoint right from the get-go, but they were also able to use that element of surprise to UNC to completely surprise them, because I'm pretty sure they're not expecting that composition change. And I think that's what gave them the edge and allowed them to push so far off that then they were able to completely nullify UNC. Well, not completely nullify, but like hold on for so long that they were able even to just like defend them without allowing them to get that fourth checkpoint. Yeah, fourth.
Right, because it was even more so like as we said, we thought this was caster baiting. That we were like, oh yeah, they're swapping, because we see that before, like at the last minute swap. So we were also like taken by surprise that like, oh yeah, we have this new comp.
Yeah, and the Lucio Curie looked good.
And I'm pretty sure Bull Corona is very happy with what happened there. I mean, Bull Corona has been waiting so long to go out of Juno jail, and allowing her to go to what is her comfort pick, which is that Lucio, definitely was a smile on her face, I'm very sure.
Absolutely. Definitely a prolific Lucio player, so not to see
I think you're the first one to know, right? Because you played against her on tryouts.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so are we getting ready to get back in? Is that what I'm seeing in the chat?
Looks like it.
And it is Servasa.
Okay.
So
by the way, casters, yeah, real quick. Once this game ends, we're immediately closing now because we're moving to Siege afterwards.
Cool.
So no interviews, no nothing. If UNC wins, shutting down the stream. If Tufts wins, close it off, and we're moving on to Siege right after.
Perfect.
Okay.
So as we wait to get started, so Servasa, I'm not very familiar. Maybe you are a little bit more familiar than I am with Servasa and the layout of Servasa compared to our previous two maps.
Yeah, I mean, with these flashpoints, it generally ends up being smaller corridors. You occasionally have some longer sightlines, but stuff like Reaper ends up being good here. I do wonder if we end up seeing Burphouse going back to that. As well as we also see these like Mauga, Ramatra, these sorts of tanks, generally speaking. But we'll have to see if my intuition ends up being.
We'll have to see as the final heroes are being picked. We'll see if they try to bait us into saying the wrong people at first. But as both teams prepare their attack, then no, it seems like, is that the same comp? Yeah, that's the same comp.
Yeah. Back to Brig Juno, it looks like. This looks like more or less similar comps to what we saw in the first game, which did end up going in Tufts' favor. So we'll have to see if it works out for them again.
You know Genji? He is not Genji, never mind. Wait, no, yes,
It should be Genji. Yep,
I got baited again.
Yep, it's just for the teleport out of spawn.
See immediately Tufts moving forward, trying to get behind the wall in order to make sure they can catch UNC by surprise.
Yeah, a flanker from both sides, the Reaper and the respective Echo, trying to get a little bit of a flank going. Neither one finding too much perfect purchase, but the Mauga dropped very, very low, once again slamming their head into the ice wall and ends up going down.
Showing how good Mei is at making sure that the defenders just can't leave.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, especially, and that's actually going to pump the swamp right onto the Orisa. No more Mauga, it looks like.
Got tired of, maybe a concussion. He got tired of bashing his head into walls.
Yeah. I think the Orisa definitely has a little bit more of that, like, on-demand survivability. Which gets to just press E, shred all the bullets. So I do like it.
But it's the same strategy. It's get in there, do as much damage as you can, and just take as much damage as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. And so far, UNC in the advantage. But once again, these maps can flip in the blink of an eye. So.
You see Aboo getting that kill on Echo.
Yeah, a really nice spear, actually. D.Va gets dropped, but the Blizzard doing a lot of work as well. Tufts ends up grabbing the point, but it's 97% already in favor of UNC. That's just how these flashpoints work. But we will see if Tufts is able to grab it, keep hold of this point now that they have 4 ultimates, or getting towards 4 ultimates. Yeah.
And we'll have to see at 30% in climbing. As you said, these maps just flip in the blink of an eye with just how quick fights can happen and how quickly you have to go back and back to fighting. And as the spear comes out, doesn't pick it up, but very close.
Yeah, Aboo has been nailing those spears though. Looking very, very good with the javelin accuracy so far.
We probably have about one more fight, one big team fight left in the tank for both teams.
Yeah, this does look like this is just going to be the last fight. Aboo running forward in this orbital ray, gets so much value out of it. And
that's D.Va mech and D.Va.
Yep, and that's the point. 2 ultimates used, Tufts gets the point, they just get a move out.
And so now we'll have to see, it's the race to the next point, just getting that initial advantage in positioning makes all the difference. But also, in addition, Tufts still has 3 of their ults. They didn't use all of them to win that flashpoint, so we can see here that Tufts can very easily use it and get the flashpoint as it now unlocks.
Yeah, Maywall comes out, blocks Aboo a bit, but once again we see the spear spin is just so good at providing that on-demand survivability. Terror Surge comes out, ends up grabbing one of the kills, traded out from either side. The rally being used dangerously close to the edge, spear doesn't quite land, as Aboo is running very, very low on health here. But does manage to stay alive just barely. Tufts increasing that capture percentage already on this first point.
The Brig getting bullied in the corner.
Yeah, but still Tufts in control. Burphouse just barely losing a Juno 1v1 as the D.Va bomb gets dropped out. As Burphouse just jumps off the map to get the fast back. Wants to regroup with the rest of the team.
And as we see, ults are gaining on both sides. You have one ult for UNC, or you have 2 ults for UNC and one that's very close. But for Tufts, you have 3. You're going to have 4 in a few seconds.
Yeah, Blizzard popped. Not too much impact so far. Orisa is very, very good at mitigating the effects of that Blizzard. But Jymthegreat is the first one to go down. But that is a beautiful Death Blossom. Manages to grab almost everyone on the side of UNC. And that's exactly what you want to see. The Death Blossom Orbital Ray combo doing so much work.
And as Tufts regains point, it's just a matter of time. You're probably going to have, again, maybe 1 fight, maybe 2 if overtime gets propped. But at this point, it's do or die for UNC.
Yeah, I mean, I think Tufts might just be able to capture this first point. They still have the Dragon Blade, but if Tufts is able to stall it out a bit, they might just be able to capture it.
As Orisa just blocks the entryway, you see his spinning spear.
Yeah, but the Juno does end up falling as the Satellite Vector gets called. Dragon Blade comes out, grabs 2, looking good so far. May
Almost
foresees the
gets a
ice
third.
block. And that's just going to be the second point going over. I don't imagine this ultimate will have too much of an impact. Yeah, not even able to get the remake from the explosion. Tufts just grabs the point and heads out to series point, actually, with this last flashpoint.
And so UNC not only has to take this flashpoint, has to take the next 2 flashpoints, and then 2 more rounds on top of 2 more games on top of that. It's a large hill, but it's not insurmountable.
Absolutely, and right now they have 2 ultimates, so they're in a good spot to see if they can take any advantages, but a really nice flank coming out.
And Jim goes flying.
And doesn't end up getting the wall climb and just falls
Definitely
in.
gonna ask him about that later. Just like, hey, where were you aiming for that one, Jim?
Dashes into the wall but doesn't get to climb up. Unfortunate.
So now Tufts forced to regroup as they realize maybe this isn't the fight to pick, but Orisa.
Popping the Terror Surge. Blizzard also popped.
But the wall up, that's not gonna protect May.
Yeah, May goes down, so does the Diva mech, and there goes Baby Diva as well. So actually, Tufts in a good position to win this fight. Jymthegreat drop low, Death Blossom available. Rally used as well. 50% for UNC as Tufts approaches this point. They just have to back off. They're not able to keep control over it, and Tufts manages to start increasing that capture percentage onto the point of their own.
We see Tufts on flashpoint point, I guess? Let's see. Burbhouse trying to get as much offensive pressure as he can to make sure that Tufts is able to defend this flashpoint.
Jymthegreat walled off. Once again, we see the Orbital Ray and Death Blossom combo, potentially. Not quite able to get it so far. Deadeye finds nobody. Pops the Death Blossom now, just gets the May so far.
And got the mech, or I thought I saw mech go.
Yeah, the mech did go down, but Diva ends up popping the ulti to save it. Tufts in a pretty good position to just take this fight. Nice spear once again. Terror Surge available. Yeah, and it's just going to be UNC jumping off the map to regroup. They have one more fight, it looks like, and I think with this Terror Surge, maybe even not that. If Azu manages to just keep them in one place, put really applying that forward pressure. Yeah, they just can't touch. Azu can't touch. They can't touch. That's the game.
That's it. And that's it also, I guess, for us.
Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and we will head out in a second.
Yeah, just let's see who got the play of the game and then we close it out.
Sounds good.
Okay, close it out, guys. And we go to just promote Siege. That's coming like in 2 minutes.
I need to head out, so I will be gone.
You do it then, Joshua. Aboo, all yours.
All right,
Goodbye.
everyone. Did you like watching this game today? Now come watch Siege. It is Overwatch, but also cool. Just stick around, have the stream on in the background, enjoy commentators. I don't know who your commentators are for your next one, but I'm sure it will be a great match. This is also a playoff game against John. Do you know
who Siege is playing?
Yeah, who's Siege playing?
Hawks. Yeah, Hardwood College. Now.
Hardwood College. It's gonna be an amazing game. Thank you all for watching our Overwatch 2 semifinals. We'll be back with the finals in whenever the finals are. I'm Aboo. Thank you all for listening.
Oh, let me